Welcome to my channel StarWire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Picture this. It's 2010 and Angelina Jolie is quite literally untouchable. She's commanding $20 million per film, gracing red carpets like royalty, and being hailed as one of the most powerful women in Hollywood. Fast forward to today, and the silence is deafening. When was the last time you saw her name attached to a major blockbuster? When did you last hear industry insiders singing her praises? Something shifted in Tinseltown, and tonight, we're pulling back the velvet curtain to reveal exactly what happened to one of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars. Welcome back to StarWire Daily, where the tea is always hot and the truth is even hotter. I'm your host, and we're about to dive deep into a story that's been whispered about in boardrooms and buzz sessions across Los Angeles for years. This isn't just about one woman's career trajectory. This is about power, politics, and the price of speaking your truth in an industry that doesn't always want to hear it. Let's rewind to the beginning, because Angelina's journey to the top was nothing short of cinematic. Born into Hollywood royalty as the daughter of Jon Voight and Mark-Helen Bertrand, she had the bloodline, but make no mistake, she carved her own path with a machete. From her early days as the wild child who shocked audiences with her raw performances in films like Gia and Girl, Interrupted, to her transformation into Lara Croft, the role that would catapult her into the stratosphere of A-list stardom. But here's where it gets interesting. By the mid-2000s, Angelina wasn't just an actress. She was a brand, a movement, a force of nature. She was jet-setting around the world as a UN Goodwill ambassador, adopting children from different continents, and yes, stealing Brad Pitt from America's sweetheart, Jennifer Aniston. The media couldn't get enough of her. And Hollywood? Well, Hollywood was making bank off her every move. The Mr. and Mrs. Smith scandal wasn't just tabloid fodder. It was a masterclass in publicity that money couldn't buy. While the world debated whether she was a homewrecker or simply a woman following her heart, studios were writing checks with more zeros than most people see in a lifetime. She was untouchable, unbreakable, and seemingly unstoppable. Then came the golden years of Brangelina. Picture-perfect family moments, humanitarian missions that made headlines, and a partnership that seemed like it was crafted by the gods of public relations themselves. Movies like Salt and Wanted proved she could carry action films just as effortlessly as she could deliver Oscar-worthy dramatic performances. She was directing, producing, and even taking on passion projects like Unbroken, a World War II drama that showcased her evolution from wild child to serious filmmaker. But you know what they say about flying too close to the sun? The first cracks started showing around 2014, and they weren't in her flawless facade. They were in her relationship with Brad Pitt. Behind closed doors, sources whispered about creative differences, lifestyle clashes, and the immense pressure of living under a microscope that never stopped zooming in. Angelina, the woman who had once thrived on controversy, was now finding herself at the center of a storm she couldn't control. And then came 2016, the year that changed everything. When news broke that Angelina Jolie had filed for divorce from Brad Pitt, citing irreconcilable differences, the entertainment world didn't just gasp. It held its collective breath. But this wasn't your typical Hollywood divorce. This was messy, public, and about to get a whole lot messier. Allegations flew about an incident on a private jet involving Brad and their son Maddox. Child Protective Services got involved. Legal battles erupted over custody of their 6 children. Suddenly, the woman who had been Hollywood's golden girl was being painted as vindictive, manipulative, and difficult. Team Brad versus Team Angelina wasn't just a media narrative. It was dividing Hollywood itself. And here's the brutal truth about this industry. When you force people to choose sides, you better make sure you're on the winning team. The whispers started quietly at first. Casting directors mentioning that her name came with too much baggage. Producers expressing concerns about the distraction factor her personal life might bring to their projects. Studio executives, those faceless puppet masters who really run this town, started viewing her not as the bankable star she'd always been, but as a potential liability. But let's pause for a moment and talk about the elephant in the room, the double standard that exists in this industry. When male stars go through public divorces, get into legal troubles, or have personal scandals, Hollywood has historically been remarkably forgiving. They get second chances, comeback stories, and redemption arcs. But for women, especially women who refuse to play nice and keep quiet, the rules are different. The tolerance is thinner. The margin for error is practically non-existent. Angelina's crime wasn't just getting divorced. It was refusing to disappear quietly into the background. She continued to speak out about humanitarian issues, women's rights, and a need for change in an industry that was about to be rocked by the Me Too movement. She was ahead of the curve, calling out problems that many in Hollywood weren't ready to acknowledge yet. And then there was the Harvey Weinstein revelation. When Angelina came forward with her own story about the disgraced producer's inappropriate behavior, it should have been a moment of validation, a recognition of her courage in speaking truth to power. Instead, it felt like another mark against her in an industry that was still grappling with its own demons. The box office numbers started telling their own story. By the Sea, her passion project directed by and starring herself alongside Brad Pitt, was a commercial disaster. First They Killed My Father, her deeply personal film about the Cambodian genocide, received critical acclaim but barely registered with mainstream audiences. Meanwhile, her attempts to land major studio films were met with lukewarm responses and scheduling conflicts that seemed suspiciously convenient. Hollywood has a funny way of rewriting history, and suddenly, Angelina's greatest strengths were being repositioned as weaknesses. Her intensity became difficult to work with. Her passion for humanitarian causes became distracted from her craft. Her willingness to speak her mind became hard to manage. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. Angelina Jolie has never been one to play by anyone else's rules. While other actresses might have hired the best publicists money could buy to rehabilitate their image, she doubled down on her convictions. She continued her work with refugees, spoke out against sexual violence in conflict zones, and refused to compromise her values for the sake of her career. The industry's response? A slow, gradual freeze-out that was so subtle, it was almost elegant in its execution. Projects that might have naturally come her way found their way to other actresses. Meetings that should have happened somehow never materialized. The phone calls stopped coming, and when they did, they were for smaller projects, international productions, or passion projects that wouldn't exactly set the box office on fire. But let's be real about something else. Angelina Jolie's story isn't just about one woman's relationship with Hollywood. It's a mirror reflecting the industry's broader issues with powerful women who refuse to be controlled. Look at the patterns. Actresses who speak out face career consequences. Women who prioritize their principles over their paychecks find themselves on the outside, looking in. Stars who refuse to play the game by rules they didn't write discover that the game can continue quite happily without them. The irony is almost too perfect to ignore. An industry that loves to celebrate strong female characters on screen seems remarkably uncomfortable with strong women off screen. They want the appearance of empowerment without the reality of it. They want the box office benefits of female-driven narratives without dealing with the complications that come with actual female leadership. And yet, Angelina's influence continues to ripple through the industry in ways that her detractors probably never intended. Her early advocacy for diversity in filmmaking, her insistence on hiring female crew members, and her commitment to telling stories that matter have become standard talking points in an industry desperate to appear progressive. She was doing the work before it was trendy, speaking the language of change before it was profitable. Recent years have shown glimmers of a potential comeback. Her role in Eternals marked her return to big-budget filmmaking, even if the Marvel movie itself received mixed reviews. Projects like Those Who Wish Me Dead and The One and Only Ivan proved she could still deliver compelling performances when given the right material. But the question remains, is Hollywood ready to fully embrace Angelina Jolie again, or will she forever remain on the periphery of an industry she once dominated? The custody battle with Brad Pitt continues to make headlines, serving as a constant reminder of the personal cost of her professional struggles. Every court filing, every leaked document, every anonymous source quote becomes another data point in the ongoing narrative that seems to follow her everywhere. It's exhausting for the public to watch. Imagine living it. But here's what's truly remarkable about Angelina Jolie's story. She's never stopped working. While Hollywood may have turned its back on her, she's continued to create, to advocate, and to use her platform in ways that matter. Her production company continues to develop projects that amplify marginalized voices. Her humanitarian work has expanded into new areas, including her role as a special envoy for the UN Refugee Agency. She's written opinion pieces for major publications, spoken at international forums, and maintained her status as one of the most recognizable advocates for human rights on the planet. The woman who once defined Hollywood glamour has evolved into something more complex, more substantive, and arguably more important than the movie star she used to be. But in an industry that often confuses fame with relevance and box office receipts with artistic value, that evolution hasn't always been appreciated. So where does this leave us? Is this the end of Angelina Jolie's Hollywood story? Or is it simply the end of one chapter in a much longer book? The entertainment industry has a notoriously short memory when it comes to talent that can make money, and Angelina's global recognition and fan base haven't disappeared. They've just been underutilized. Perhaps the real question isn't whether Hollywood turned its back on Angelina Jolie, but whether Angelina Jolie decided she no longer needed Hollywood's approval. In a career defined by bold choices and fearless performances, walking away from an industry that demanded her silence might just be her most courageous role yet. The truth is, Hollywood didn't just turn its back on Angelina Jolie. It revealed its own limitations in the process. An industry that claims to celebrate artists and storytellers showed that there are still boundaries that can't be crossed, truths that can't be spoken, and prices that come with standing up for what you believe in. But if there's one thing we've learned from decades of Hollywood history, it's that the most compelling stories are often about comebacks, redemption, and the triumph of talent over circumstance. Whether Angelina Jolie gets her Hollywood ending remains to be written, but one thing is certain, she's never stopped being fascinating to watch. What do you think? Is Hollywood ready to welcome back one of its most complex and compelling stars? Or has too much water flowed under that particular bridge? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and trust me, your perspectives always add layers to these stories that I never considered. If this deep dive into Hollywood's inner workings got your pulse racing, smash that like button and let the algorithm know you're here for this kind of behind-the-scenes content. And hey, if you're not already part of the Star Wire Daily family, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because we're just getting started with the stories that the industry doesn't always want you to hear. Until next time, keep questioning, keep watching, and remember, in Hollywood, the most interesting stories are often the ones happening behind the camera.